So basically what I wanted to go over today is just how to plot some resistance and support lines, the very important ones, um, from previous days. And like I said a bunch of times, this could be from years ago and they're still going to be in play every day if they're a strong support or resistance. So let's go to one that I know is very good at following rules. Can everybody see my screen okay? Thank you, Kyler. Alright, so we're on 1 minute right now. Let's bust it back to 6 months. And we'll go to 4 hour. 4 hours is where I like to hang out if I'm going to be swing trading. You could do this on the daily. You could do it on a weekly chart. It's all usually going to match up. So I'm going to take all these high peaks and I'm going to put a line on all of them. And a lot of you guys probably know this already, but for the people who don't, you can do it. You'll get faster at this. Don't worry about if you take forever to do it. They don't have to be perfect. You're just trying to grab as many of these points as possible. You can see here when I grab this. Let me grab my little draw on deal here. I grab this low point. I grab these low points. This one's still playing on the same thing. All these, so you know that it's a really good, really good support line. Let me delete all these now. We're gonna grab that one there because we see a lot of stuff hitting that same area. All through here, all these areas are hitting the same area. Somebody's dying right there. My bad. And we'll grab some of this area too, because it's hitting a lot of these key points. Even this one right here where it smacked that line, it's still resisting at that same area. It doesn't always have to hit it, but it, when it comes close, it's still going to be doing the same thing. So you see current price right here, stopped out at 8, and we have a line that runs through it. You probably can't see it very well because of the dotted line that runs through for current price. I'm going to switch this back to a 4 hour, and you can see all of our lines here. And then if you switch it to, let's say, a 30-minute, you can still see all of our lines are still playing in there. This is a really nice thing about TradingView. All of your lines are still going to be time frame to time frame. Let's just go here and I'll flip on Vision. And I need to adjust the time. Let's go back a bit there. And we'll jump it on. We'll gamble. Usually to get into a swing trade with Vision, I'll put it on the gambler to get into it, and then once I'm in it, I'll usually tighten up the risk. But as you can see, let's zoom in here. So just so you know, everybody that doesn't have Vision doesn't go on any indicators. It doesn't go on anything like support and resistance. It's just just to show you, one, how good Vision is, and two, why this is important. So you can see right here, it found a support right here. So we put a layer over there. See that it found a support right there. It couldn't break that resistance that we've plotted from many days and many months before. So then it fell back down. Then obviously Vision told you to get out of it. And then it found support though, back on that same area as before. It should be right here. And then it finally broke through it after it tested it again and broke through it. And then now this line is going to become a support basically. So once you're below one of these lines, it's going to be considered a resistance when it's trying to break through it to the top. And then once it gets above it, it's going to become a support more than likely. Sometimes they'll break down below it, but more than likely it becomes a support. And so it came up here, found some resistance on this area at 1061 line that we put from previous areas that we found. Came back down and started to go back up, tested it again, couldn't hang, so Vision said to sell it. Came back down, wanted to come up and test these areas again. Finally broke through it. Went on to our next one at 1227. Couldn't break through it, so it started to come back down. Of course, Vision said to get out of it. And then we had this 1061. Since it finally broke through it here, it finally became a support right here. Vision said go ahead and go long again. We went long, tested this area again at 1227. Couldn't break through it, so it decided, everybody decided, hey, let's stop trying to break through it, basically. And then it fell down to 808 cents. Obviously, Vision said to get out. Same thing, if we go back to the chart, we see that it started to break through this resistance right here on this big push from, let's see where we at here, about, let's just say $8. Close, getting up there to 20 bucks. And you see the Vision told you to go long here. It broke through that resistance, kept breaking these resistance points. And if you see this candle right here, can everybody see that candle all right? Kyler, can you anybody want to answer? Okay, all right. So you see that candle broke this resistance at $10, which that's a whole dollar amount, so it's going to be a psychological type deal. It broke that, couldn't get past that 1061, so it came back down, it fell back down, and had to retest this and finally break through it again. And it kept going. Couldn't break through that 1937 area, and so it fell back. Obviously, Vision said to short it. So let's go to 5-year and see if there's any other areas that make sense for that 1937. So we see another one right there. And this is all the way back in 2012. So you see how far back you can go to find these key points. This was apparently all the way when it was on the moon, but not too worried about that. So if we go back this way, by the way, SRNE is looking good for another little swing. Let me get rid of this arrow here and get rid of this real quick. Just gotta try to grab as many of these low points as possible. You don't have to be perfect. You're just trying to get an idea. So let's see, let's dump this back to 4 hours. And you see that previous chart I was on was a weekly, and my trend line still is basically true to the 4-hour chart. So I would say when this thing comes back down here, this is where you're going to want to watch it and watch to see if Vision tells you to get in. It already looks like it's going to start to curl back, but what you're looking for is for it to come to that red line, which is your trend line. You see it's moving in an upward trend. Let me turn this off so we don't get too cluttered here. You can see this is moving in an upward trend. That's what you want to find when you're looking for something to swing trade. That's the best pattern to find, is something that's moving in an uptrend over time. So we're going to look for it to come back down to our red line here, our trend line. Or to be honest, it might not, because it's on that $8, 808 support that we found. If it does, we're going to make sure that it starts to curl back somewhere around here and start to go back up before you get back into it. And obviously, if you have Vision, Vision's going to tell you when you should get in it. As you can see with the rest of the chart, Vision will tell you. So you can see this momentum long here because it sat on the support, that trend line that we drew, and that's when it told you to get back in it. Same thing, like I said, if you're swing trading, I prefer a 4-hour chart. Some people like the daily, some people like 2 and 3 hour. It's all going to kind of mix and match with each other, so you don't have to be too specific on it. But this is what we're going to look for, and then once it bounces off one of these support lines, I'm not too sure that it's really going to come back down to our red line. I think it's going to start to curl back right here. But once it does, it's going to have to start breaking through all these key levels. So it might come back up here to the $10 area, and just get smacked back down. It might come up here to the 1061 and get smacked back down. It might just start breaking through all of these and just keep running up. But you can always, if it does start to get smacked back down at $10, you can get out of it there and then wait for it to come back down, find some support down here on one of our lines that we drew, get back in it and do the same thing over again. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions? No questions?
What were the settings you put for original?
To get into a swing trade, I'm usually going to be on very high sensitivity and the gambler for the risk.
And how did you go about finding this one stock out of all the other stocks?
SRNE is one that I'm always usually looking at to play because I used to have a list called Load the Boat list, and on the list it said anything under $2 loaded up, because that's a very, very strong support level when it gets down to that area. So you can go back through here in the chart. Let's see, we'll go, and you can see that it'll keep finding support if it gets down that low to around that $2 mark. Oh, yeah, it's all gonna scrunch up on me, but you can see that it finds, like, it's almost like a master support if it gets down to that level, and it often likes to get down to that level. And so when it's down there, I like to just load it up because the pattern that it makes over the past 10 years is that it just likes to go down and come right back up almost to $20. And I mean, even if it just comes up to 10, I'm okay with that too. It's a nice good gain.
I got a question right quick when you got 2 seconds.
Go ahead.
All right, you know how you have some stocks that have their earnings coming up. Are you looking at the same thing for the earnings, or does it reflect that due to the earnings?
You can look at the same thing for earnings. The only thing with earnings is you got to be careful, because if they have a bad earnings report, it doesn't care about any of these supports. It's usually just going to fall to one of the lowest ones. A lot of people, when they play earnings, they like to play up to the earnings report, and then a couple days before they actually give the report, that's when they would exit their position.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
If you don't mind, can you pull up Snapchat?
Snappy snap. So on the daily here, let's go to 4.
So how long? It really hadn't. It's really just been going.
Yeah.
I didn't have this when I needed this. I didn't have this last week. Had I had this last week, I would have known to just stay in where I was at, because I got in tap when it was like $26, $27.
Are you still holding it from that position?
No, still not holding, no.
Oh, okay.
I got in and I got out for the earnings, and then I got back out. Well, I played the earnings, good on earnings because they had a good earning.
Nice.
And then once the next day came, I sold it. But had I had this, I would have known not to sell it.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody can tell the future, so that's, we could all say that we should have done this or that, but the bad thing about stuff like this is, right here before it really took the run, I mean, this right here is why it took the run, in my opinion, because it made this high right here, and once it broke that high, it's going to break out with some momentum behind it. So that, in my opinion, is why it made the run, and then everybody just started hitting it. Being that it almost has ran $20 already, I would kind of stay clear from it, because everybody knows that it ran $20, and it's most likely going to come back down pretty hard. because there's going to be a lot of people. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that are looking to short this thing. I'm sure there's already people with shares to short reserved.
I do have a question.
Oh, Roddy.
So, like when I'm watching the scanner and things live and stocks pop up and I go to them, I usually can see the long, but it might be a couple of candlesticks after the long, and it hasn't said short yet. So, how reserved are you in jumping in? How soon after that long symbol do you have to change something?
Depends on the time frame you're watching it on.
Usually like a 1 minute candle.
1 minute. So on a 1 minute, if you got to look at other stuff too. Like the volume is the volume dying off and going the other direction. That'll give you a real good sign of what you should do. And then you could use some other indicators, like I've said before, like RSI. RSI will tell you if it's oversold or overbought. That'll kind of give you some extra confirmation. Usually you can be pretty safe getting in like 1 or 2 candles after the signal if you're on a 1 minute. Once you start turning up the time frame, that can get a little sketchy, because then you could get 3 candles. That's 15 minutes. That's a lot of time, especially for one of those top gainers of the day.
Can you show me how to do the RSI on this view?
Yeah, it's the same way you you got vision and stuff on your chart. You would just go here, go to built-ins, and you can type in RSI, or you can type in relative strength index, and it'll be right there. Make sure it's one of the built-in deals, because all the other stuff has been modified by people. The one that's a built-in relative strength index is the one that you're going to find on all your brokers like Webull and TD Ameritrade and stuff.
Okay, so what are you looking for on that purple line?
Okay, so down here we have RSI is oversold, so that's going to be the closer or under 30 RSI is going to be oversold. So that means that there's a lot of people selling it, and it should start to come back, just based on previous events of how it runs. And then RSI 70 means the opposite. That means that it's overbought, and it really should be coming back down from that point. And so I like to, if I'm going to get into something, I usually tell people I like to be at or under RSI 50. And then usually, a lot of times you can use RSI once it gets to 70, that could be your sell point. Because once it gets to 70, so like you can see sometimes here it'll come up above it, but a lot of times it doesn't. A lot of times it'll use that, and you'll kind of just see it almost have like a resistance there on the RSI scale, and then it'll start to come back down. So does that make sense, how RSI oversold and overbought, what that means?
Yeah, I hadn't seen this before, so that was pretty helpful.
Yeah, it's very helpful. It's probably one, that and VWAP, it's a tie between them. That's my 2 favorite indicators. And the VWAP deal I'll be going over next Sunday, just so everybody knows. You say volume? Alright. It's pretty simple. So we'll just go off this backside here. You can see that these start to pop up. I mean, obviously that volume that stick, candle, whatever you want to call it, that volume bar is just completely engulfing everything else. So that's a very good sign to get into something. If you want to maybe put a call on it, or you want to put you just want to go long and buy some shares. Either way, but if you hover your cursor over the volume bar, you can see in the top left of the screen where it shows what indicators I have. It'll say snap, and then below that it says vision, and then below that it says volume. You can see that it says 6 million. It's 6.05, whatever. If you go to the next line, it'll tell you that there's 1.95. So that's shares being traded. is what that means. There's, you know, a little barely over 6 million shares being traded here. There's almost 2 million shares being traded here, and this is again a 4-hour time frame, but it'll be the same deal based on what time frame you're on. But when I look at volume like this and I see something run like this, you take this one. Let me see if it'll let me put a little trend line on this. It may or may not. You can see how it's stairs, like it almost looks like a set of stairs stepping down. That's usually what I'm looking for when something's dying. When the volume starts to step down, it's getting ready to change direction. Let's see if we can find something. Yeah, okay, so here's a pretty decent example right here. You can see that, oh, damn it. Okay, alright, there we go, it's stuck. So you can see that volume overall was stepping down and basically going in a downward trend. And then what happened right at the end of it? It just died. And you can see this is the same deal. You know, this is going up because more sellers are coming in, and then once it starts to change direction, that's when you can kind of see where the green volume starts coming in. It's a really easy thing to understand. If you want to know, like, there's a lot of volume compared to the previous volume bar down there, you can just kind of hover over it. You know, these last couple ones here, they were around 500,000-600,000 shares being traded, and boom, this big old candle comes in. And that had 4.3 million shares being traded in that 4-hour time, when all the other little bars behind the candles behind it only had like 500,000 or 600,000.
Awesome, thanks.
Rhett, who you need unmuted, bud?
How can you add tickers to a watch list?
What do you mean? Like, what watch list? Let's see. Alright, there you go, Rhett.
Did you get it?
Yep.
Alright, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead, bub.
Can you explain the difference between the candles that Vision uses and regular candles?
Yeah, it's real simple. A lot of people like to complicate it. So this is the Heikinashi candles. What it does is all it does is try to smooth it out. You know, make it not look like there's a bunch of little skips in there. Snapchat might do it if we it might, yeah. So you can kind of see like there's a lot of just little skips in here, little jumps all around the place. The big old jump right there. I mean, obviously it's because it gapped up, but it's a lot easier to read in my opinion if you have the Heikinashi candles. A lot of people like to think like it's some magical deal, like, but it's it's just smoothing out the chart is all it's doing.
Okay, because I noticed when I was switching between the two that on the normal candle, maybe the candle would be green, and then when I switch, it'd be red. So it's kind of confusing about how to read it.
Yeah, I would say, obviously with Vision, it's optimized for the Heikinashi deal, but I know we're working on making it work for both, just so you can just kind of play with what you want to use. But the Heikinashi just kind of smooths everything out and gives you like a more overall direction, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, bud. Let me see what this message was.
Do you all do live trading in the morning when you're trading, or this is like one time a week thing that you do?
Well, we just started this just today, so soon I'm gonna be doing like $1,000 account challenge and try to build it up and show everybody you can build a $1,000 account very quickly. A lot of people don't think you can, but if you do the right things, you can. So that's going to be on YouTube though. Billy is our live stream guy over here in Discord, and then the live stream on YouTube and Facebook, kind of they're just there to run. You know, there's not really anybody talking or anything on those. But of course, you know, the whole live trading deal might come about soon. I'm sure Billy would not mind, as long as he could get it to you know, not show his account number and stuff when he takes a position or whatever. I'll ask him for you if he wants to do it on Discord.
Okay, I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever use SMAs or EMAs?
Not really. If I'm charting something out for swing trading, sometimes I'll look at the 50 and the 200, because if something has fell off a lot, I usually look at like the 50, mostly the 200, because it can give you a good indication of where it's gonna at least come back to. But other than that, I don't mess with none of that stuff. My favorite two indicators would be the VWAP and the RSI. Volume, I don't really consider it a indicator. I just consider it as it should have been there in the first place. But yeah, I'm not a big moving average or indicator person. I know everybody's got their stuff, but you know, a lot of people it works for. You know, so I always tell them, you know, stick to what works for you. So everybody's got their different little styles. But if I do use it, I'm looking at the 50 and the 200 for getting into a swing trade.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Can you explain the indicators that you use for options and how you read them?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll go over it briefly because, like I said, next week I'm going to show everybody how I like to use the VWAP and why I like to use it. So I won't go too much into detail with it because that'll kind of screw me on next week. But other than volumes.
I apologize. I missed the question. Can you repeat that?
He asked what indicators I like to use and why. Sorry, my Alexa was going off. Alright, let me thicken that bar up here.
She's always listening.
I'm telling you. She's taking all my secrets. Let me turn on the extended just so I can get a better... So I showed you all what volume does, that's why I took it off there. And then we'll kind of kick vision back on here for everybody. Probably put it on low. And kick this back up. Alright. So this is the SPY. This is where, if you all don't know yet, this is where I like to play options. This is really one of the only things that I play options on. I might branch out into some other stuff soon, but I like to use the VWAP, and then volume's obviously a big deal, and then let's go get RSI real quick. So you can see down here that our RSI really bottomed out hard down here. So with vision telling me, hey, good time to buy. Plus I can just glance right down here and see, okay, well, RSI was bottomed out, and on something like this or Apple or Tesla or Amazon, when the RSI is so low like that, you know, you got to think to yourself, okay, well, it's got to come back. So with vision telling me, you know, hey, it's a buy, plus that's a good time for me. The VWAP, I'll just kind of briefly touch it. It's the volume weighted average price of you know, the people that have shares here in the in SPY, the S&P And it likes to bounce off of it. I'll go more into that on next Sunday, but a lot of times when I get something like this, when it dives down way down here and I get a call on it, I like to sell it at the VWAP, because a lot of times it won't run through it. And like I said, I'll go more into that on next Sunday, but it did in this case. So very simple to see, you know. Okay, tested it here a couple times, third test started to break through it, and that can kind of give you an indication. Okay, and then like I said, again, you can look at the RSI here. The RSI was right around 50, which is a nice little sweet spot, and then it breaks the VWAP line, and so you could have made a lot of good money on that call right there. But that's just to touch on the only indicators I really like to use, if I use any. That would be the top. That would be like the only two, because like I said, I don't really consider the volume an indicator. It should have been there on the chart without me having to add it. So if I use indicators, it's going to be RSI and it's going to be the VWAP. But really, you don't have to have any of them if you got vision.
Regarding the expiration date for the option, what frame is that usually take, like weekly or more than that?
You mean which expiration date do I usually choose?
Yeah, like for example, if today is Monday, you take like expiration of the next Friday, or you can
Oh no.
time.
Oh no, I expire today. I only day trade these options. I don't want to hold that stuff.
I know, but when you take like the option, like which one do you take usually, like for the week expiration or like
No, expire in the same day, and then I'll get $1 if I'm gonna call it, and let's say it's at 3:43. I'm gonna put an option call for 3:44, and it's gonna be same day expiration. And so if it's a put and it's at 3:45, I'm gonna go for a 3:44 put, and it's gonna be same day expiration.
But the technique doesn't play against you.
No, because I'm only holding it for maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes max.
Okay.
So that doesn't matter to me. I'm in it to get my money and get out.
Got you. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else got any questions? Or does everybody understand the support and resistance deal that I showed?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
What do you think about playing SPXU? It's supposed to be an inverse of SPY. The options on it are cheaper. I wasn't sure about volume and stuff. So.
Nice, that reminds me of VXX. Let's see here.
What's that?
VXX does the same thing. It like totally mimics SPY, but in the total opposite.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what this is too.
It definitely looks like it. I mean, you could definitely do it if it allows you to trade options on it. I mean, I'm not sure. I've never done it, so I'm not sure how much exactly you'd make on it. So I don't know if it'd be worth it or not versus SPY.
Yeah, I noticed SPY moves.
Yeah. So like in that move right there, it kind of moved. Let's see, 784 to about $8 at the top. So SPY moves $1 or $2 at a time usually when it's gonna make a good little run. So that might be where on SPY you'll make more money, but I can't tell you exactly because I've never done this one.
Maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, if they're cheap enough, I mean, might as well just try one out.
So which one moves with more money? I mean, how do you know? How can you determine that?
What do you mean with more money?
Like you said, SPY moves at $1 or so per like every time it moves.
Uh-huh.
How do you determine that?
By just looking, like right here, you can see on this move, it was at like 782 when it started to reverse here, and then at the top, it's only hitting $8, so it barely moved 18 cents. And on the SPY, you see that same move. It started out to reverse at 343 and ended up almost 346. So it almost, almost a $3 move. Yeah.
I see now. Okay. Thanks.
But it doesn't mean like I can't say that if you played the options on the other one that he was talking about that you wouldn't make just as much money, because it yeah.
Yeah, obviously you can make a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just always play the SPY, so
Yeah.
it's predictable, simple, easy.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems that having this vision, man, it's like, and I don't want to say it's like a no-brainer, but it just seems like
Go ahead and say it. Just go ahead and say it.
it just seems like a no-brainer. I mean, like how can you go wrong? If you see something to tell you to get out, and if you want to test your luck, yeah.
We've all done that, in fact.
Yeah. I don't know how you can lose with this.
I mean, it's not gonna nail every one of them, but for the most part, it's pretty good at it.
Yeah, for the most part, what I'm looking at.
Die!
Do you track support and resistance for all your trades, or like when do you use support and resistance for?
That's mainly for like a day trade on like stuff. A lot of times like top gainers or what. I usually don't mess with it on the SPY. That's where like my RSI and VWAP would come in. Yeah, like regular stuff like you see on the top gainer list. A lot of chances, if it's ran before, or if it's running today, it has ran before, so you can kind of go back and see where would be a good spot to get in it. If it starts to fall back, and you might be able to see where it's going to find support, and you start to watch at those lines, and if it looks like it's starting to curl back and find some support on one of your lines, then okay, well that's probably the best time to get in it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Let me see if there's any questions. What do you use for a trading platform specifically for options and day trading if you don't have over 25,000 so you don't get flagged? The answer to that question is Webull or Thinkorswim with a cash account, because a cash account does not have the $25,000 PDT rule. Only margin accounts do.
Are you using a margin account?
Yes, but when I do the whole little $1,000 challenge deal, that'll be on a cash account. The difference between a margin and a cash, other than what I just said, would be on a margin. If you get into a position, you sell it, your money's available right then and there. With a cash account, you have to wait usually 2 days, maybe 3 on some other brokers, for your cash to settle after you sell it. Then you can use it again. So if you have 5,000, you use 1,000 to get into a trade, and maybe you come out with the whole trade to profited 500, so the whole $1,500 would be on hold for a couple days until it settles. Then you'd be able to use that 1,500 again. With a margin basically it's like on a margin your cash still has to settle, but they basically put up a loan for you basically to use that same money as soon as you exit a position. And sometimes it can get you in trouble, but if you're careful, you'll be all right. That's the only difference. I mean, it's kind of, with one side you can only day trade 3 times per week, But with a cash account, if you're not trading and sizing your positions correctly, then you might be able to only trade 3 times a week because of the settle time. So it depends on just which one works better for each individual.
You got your eye on any earnings that you think you're gonna play this week?
No, I typically don't mess with earnings. In previous experience, it doesn't work out well for me, so I stay away from them. I know a lot of people that do, but I typically don't. Yeah, Redskis said if your account is cash, then option trades settle nightly, and that's true. So if you trade options, your settlement time is usually like 24 hours versus the whole 48 hours for normal just getting some shares and trading them.
On wheel, it's the same rule applies. You get 3-day trades a week.
Yeah, on a margin account, but you can switch your account to a cash account, and I think it takes 5 days, maybe a week to switch your account to a margin to a cash.
Yeah, it takes 5 days.
Thank you.
Let me ask this: if you have, is it allowed to have like 2 different accounts? Say you have Webull and Robinhood.
Yeah.
Can you do 3 on each?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Nerville, I'm not really sure how to pronounce your name there, but he said Dershi, I'm not sure which one. If you do a cash account, don't they make it to where you can't do options? No, but on Webull, if you do apply to trade options, if you answer their questions like you're a total newbie at options, they will not approve you to do options because they think that it's super risky. So it all depends on how you answer their questions. Their questions is just basically to give them something as a liability to look back on. So if you lose a bunch of money because you take some bad contracts, whether calls or puts, and you lose all your money and then you try to get, sue them or whatever, they can go back to your questions and say, well, you answered this as you had 5 years experience and yada, yada, yada. Their questions are a liability thing for them. So it all depends on how you answer their questions on the option application, I guess you would call it. Kate, to make money on regular just day trading stocks, like you're buying and selling just shares, the best way to build your account off of that would be to just play the top gainers, but again, you're gonna have to make sure you're watching like vision obviously is gonna help you, but you can't just go into everything blindly, so you'd want to still make sure maybe you don't have to have like all those support and resistance lines that I showed. You don't have to have all of them. You could have half of them and they're still going to help you out. So that's, if you ever hear the term somebody tell you to look left, that's what it means. It means go to a daily chart, start slapping some lines on a lot of the key high points and a lot of the key low points, and then you'll start to see once you change back to a 1 minute or a 5 minute or 15, whatever you like to trade on, you'll see those lines come into play. The day that you're trading, like real time, you'll see it start to find these support and resistances on lines that you placed, on the chart 5 years ago, that you found a nice little high point or a low point. You'll still see in play in this, like the same time today. That's why I was trying to show everybody that first, today. So I would start there. And then obviously, if you don't have to use RSI, but that's a good indicator on when it might be a good time to buy into something. Also, once it reaches, the 70 overbought level, good time to have a little extra confirmation on when to get out. And the best settings to use for scalping with vision and trading view. The sensitivity I always keep on very high. I usually don't touch it. And then the risk setting for scalping that I like to do on basically any chart is very low or low. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not, Zeddy, but that's what I like to use, especially for scalping. Scalping on very low risk on 1 minute is super nice.
You always have the sensitivity on very high?
Yeah, it's either a high or very high, because I want to get in as fast as possible.
Yeah, I've been checking it out, just hesitating on the executions.
I got
That's
you.
where it's getting me good. But, yeah, looking back through it and, you know, doing the lines and stuff, it's really helping me understand it all.
Oh yeah. And you'll get a lot faster at popping them lines too. You do it a few times and you're just like boom, 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 boom. There's a point, and then you just switch back to your normal, day trading time frame where there's a 1 minute or 5 minute or whatever, and you'll start to see, okay, now it makes sense. All right, does anybody else have any questions? Because since I'm going to be putting this on YouTube, I kind of want to make sure it's kept short so it doesn't take a year to upload it.
Well, I'm good. Thanks for helping me out, clearing some stuff up.
Perfect. All right, everybody. If nobody else has any questions, I'm gonna cut her and then start to chop it up and throw it on YouTube.
Alright, man. Thanks for the info.
No problem. Thank you all for joining in.
Thanks for your time.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.